Hillside Farm Shop, Hillside Farm, Moor Park Lane, Farnham. And perhaps I could ask Mr. Hughes to introduce this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in front of you an application for a new premises licence for Hillside Farm, Moor Park Lane, Farnham, where 4 valid representations have been received from other persons, which are attached in the report at Annex 4. There have been no representations received from the responsible authorities. In brief, the applicant seeks to licence the premises for off-sales of alcohol only from 10 till 6, 7 days a week, with opening hours to match. Officers ask that you consider the matter.
Thanks very much. The procedure of what will happen is that we'll ask the applicant to present their case to us. We will then have questions, no doubt, from the panel to ask you. And then we'll hear from the objectors and we'll no doubt have questions of the objectors as well. Okay. Understand. And then the panel will retire when we've heard all the evidence and submissions, probably with our clerk to record our what we're doing, and also the legal officer as well. Decision. Okay, over to you to present your application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you as the chair for allowing me to speak as the applicant. And I would also like to reiterate that there have been no representations received from the responsible authorities, and the promotion of relevant licence objectives has been covered and considerations made within the application itself. The application needs to allow the off-sale of alcohol with our already established farm shop business set within our commercial farm. At present, we make our own artisan craft cider, and we would like to be licensed to sell this alongside our current homegrown produce as part of our sustainable farming and diversification plan. I'd now like to take this opportunity to dispel some of the concerns raised by the 4 representations received from other persons. The storage of alcohol within the shop and storage area is secure and not of access to the public when there are no staff present. Within the shop, no public have access to the storage area. The sales of all off-site are all off-site, reducing the risk of antisocial behaviour and public nuisance within the immediate local area. The shop frontage does not directly open onto the private farm road and public bridleway, but is set back within the farmyard, which is further secured by metal security gates out of hours. And there is also CCTV covering the entrance to the shop and the farmyard itself. The access of the farm is owned by a third party, Suez PLC, over which we exercise full lawful access rights for all purposes as set out in the deeds for the property, and we maintain them as such. Suez has never made any representation in relation to our farm shop over the years, for which they have always been aware of the use of the farm shop. Situated on the access roads are gates owned by Suez to reduce the speed of vehicular traffic in the area, to ensure safety of the public who are also using popular bridleways that run over those roads. The recent increase of traffic, as raised in the representations, is outside of our control, as the farm roads serve around 25 local residences at all 3 exit points of the farm road, including recent pop-up businesses. However, when people have previously accessed by vehicle to the shop, they are instructed to only use the access from Rockhouse Lane, which is the most direct and unintrusive route directly from the public highway. Our product to sell is all made on site and therefore does not require an increase in deliveries, bringing in produce. It is estimated that over the past 2 years, around 75% of our business has actually been from passing trade on foot or bicycle along the bridleways. We have no website and only have one sign on our fence bordering the bridleway to announce currently available products. We are such small scale that local and passing trade provides sufficient outlet, which means we predict our cider will not significantly increase vehicular traffic for our customers, as a lot of it will be alongside our current customer base. Further notes for the objections within objection 2, in the second half of the objection, we feel are highly irrelevant to the licence objectives as previously stated. Lastly, in regards to previous questions that I've answered via email, concerns over parking in the area was raised. All parking for the farm and farm shop has always and will continue to be within the curtilage of the farm, and therefore no blocking or interfering with the public rights of way along right of ways. Any further questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Let us start with one.
Yeah.
You say you're wanting to open 10 o'clock till 6 o'clock, 7 days a week.
Yes.
But it also says, state any seasonal variations for supply. You've answered that saying, open on demand for pre-arranged collection.
So
What do you mean and anticipate by that?
when filling out the application, I spoke with a member of the licensing board on the phone to ask about the opening hours, because currently, as we're such small scale, we're family operated, we don't have set opening hours. It's as a commercial farm, we are at and about, we're working on the farm all the time, and we are open when we are present, and we're open on demand for if people, we regularly have people who are walking past going, well, can we come and pick up some lamb? So we'll open up and we'll sell some lamb, some of our produce. Because this is very hard to write in a form of when you're going to be open, the advice was given to us, put down the maximum hours that you would be willing to open. So we're not set to be open 10 to 6. Those are the hours at which we will facilitate people to come in on demand if they ring us up, want to collect from our normal regular customers, or if they're passing, they stop us, talk to us, or they pop in because we're in the shop staffing it.
So if I wanted to collect some alcohol or meat or something at 8 o'clock at night, that wouldn't happen. No. So the on demand is only between.
It's within those
within
hours.
the 10 to 6.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
happen. So nothing will happen.
No, that's the maximum available
Before
hours
10.
to be open.
Nothing will happen before 10.
Correct.
Nothing will happen after 6.
Correct.
Despite the answer to that question.
Yes, I
that's
struggle with
fine.
the wording of it, but that's
Just wanted to clarify
Yes.
exactly what you were.
Exactly, that's clarified for you.
And what's the range of things you sell at the moment?
We currently sell our lamb and beef that we produce on the farm.
So pumpkins.
And yeah, our seasonal veg that's grown, so we've currently got pumpkins and marrows that we've grown. So on that side,
So that there are vegetables and things that are sold.
as and when they
As and
grow.
when, yeah.
Yes.
So you only sell produce that comes from the farm, is that right?
That's all grown on the farm.
And do you advertise anywhere? And if you do, in what form? And what do you advertise?
As I've said in my statement, our only signage and advertising is our sign, that our board that we have outside on our fence line. We do have a new Instagram, which is just as is social media, just to sort of it's not saying it's only saying really when things are ready. It's obviously not a wide customer base on that front. We're not expecting people travelling far and wide to receive. We like to serve the local community. We have a lot of locals buying from us from all around Farnham, and as I said, the majority have started as walkers, cyclists, people who are passing. We saw an increase in lockdown because an increase in the use of the bridleways. People going, oh, we didn't know this was here. We only live across the valley. We didn't even know this area was here. That's great. Oh, we see you've got a shop. Can we buy some lamb? That's the extent of our advertising. No website, no adverts and papers or anything like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. How does the shop operate? So, for example, if I walked into your farm, what would I see? Would I see a door?
So we have from the signage on the fence. If you were to turn around, there's a sign pointing, just directing into the farmyard at the gate, at which there's a door in the corner of the farmyard with a sign saying Hillside Farm Shop, which says open, which we have an open or closed sign. It's open, it doubles as my father's office. So when he's present, it's open. When one of us is present, it's open. When it's not,
So it's not a shop
it's closed.
as I'd understand. a shop.
It's not a come in and browse shop. It's very much a stockist, as you like. We do have people coming in because it's an art gallery. My father's a member of the Fine Art Society and artists, and that's where our shop is. People can come in and browse, people talk to us, but it's not a produce out on display kind of shop. Just come and have a browse and see. So very much when people like.
In the case of the current,
Yes.
what you're selling at currently,
Yes.
you ask for something and you then go and get it from wherever you keep it.
The freezers are within the farm shop,
Right.
so they come in. We can show them. We can say what size you want. Do you want what cut, etc. Do you want a leg of lamb? Do you want top side of beef, etc. And yeah, so they ask for what they're interested in.
Also, I just want to ask how much cider, because you say it's artisan, locally produced cider.
Yeah.
So how much would you anticipate producing?
So we have just pressed our cider this weekend actually, which we have 450 to 460 litres, which will bottle out about 420. We have no want to go above our duty, the duty limits on that you can produce. As I said, it's small scale. We don't have storage for big vats and fermenting. It's very much small scale, and that's the size. And it was the same size last year when we produced.
So when you've sold all your cider, what happens then? You
Sold
don't
out.
buy any in.
No, it's whatever we make from that year's crop is that amount, and then it's sold out. It's the same with our lamb and our beef. When it's sold out, it's sold out. We can't rapidly grow anymore, and we don't just buy in and stuff. So it's all grown on our land, etc.
Yes.
I want to talk about diversification.
Yes.
Because obviously farmers, having a hard time, and do you foresee this business expanding and would you need to change the licensing if you do happen to have it, today? How do you see the future? That's my first question.
To answer that question, on the alcohol licensing front, we don't see it expanding. We don't have any other alcohol that we can or would like to make. We have no want to further it into turning into a pub or anything like that. That's not of interest to us, as it's family run. We're not interested in making a big business. We like to keep it small, and just as it is sustainable, to pay back some of the costs of the farm and keep the farm running as a commercial unit. The only other future product that we're looking into is we've now got beehives on the farm, so we'll be looking to produce some honey. But that's about that.
My second question, I've looked at the maps.
Yes.
I've looked to see how near residents are.
Yes.
What steps would you take or have you taken to make your premises secure and where the alcohol is stored? And would you tell us how near, people were, for instance, children?
We have the security. I did mention in my statement. The shop is locked as a normal building whenever it's not staffed or when there's no one present. The storage area is exactly the same. That's kept locked. And then we have CCTV covering the doorway and the entrance to the farmyards. And then the bottom of the farmyard has double metal gates, which are chained out of hours when we're not in the farmyard. So at night, once we've finished up with the horses and agricultural plans that we're doing.
I'm particularly thinking of residents, the nearest residents.
So our nearest resident is directly opposite the farm gate at Way Cottage. New residents, they do have 2 young children. They are actually customers of ours. They're current customers of our meet as it is, and they're very friendly. And we already have an amount of farm traffic as any farm does, with horse trailers, tractors, etc. As normal movements you'd expect. The gates are there to slow down any traffic, and ourselves, we keep them closed. Other than that, the nearest children are one of the objectives who are opposite the house, which is about 100 metres up the road from the access to the farmyard. And other than that, there's no other young children in the direct vicinity further around in their building roads. Yeah, there's other properties within the count which we have objectives from, which have children who don't open directly onto the bridleways. They do walk down regularly, and a number of them are also customers of sellers. And yeah, my neighbours as well.
Chair,
Yes.
who is the person who is responsible for the upkeep of the bridleway near you?
So within our deeds, we have, of course, a reasonable upkeep as per use. We do abide by this. We maintain and we fix the areas directly outside the front of the house and the farm, because that's the area that we have the most use of. As the large 5 resident kiln buildings and have bigger access over that, we have the majority use of that. So we have previously and do continue to fix that. The wider plan of the bridleway 1, 2, 3 coming along Moor Park Lane, again, that's outside one of our residences. We fix that as and when it's needed. It is a rough farm road with pothole fill, we level, and there's also further work done by Suez on that, as they have an obligation to upkeep of bridleways as well, as the owners of their duty of care of.
I have
So,
visited.
yeah.
Okay, yes.
Do you have any, sorry, go on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Do you have any other workers that need to come to the farm?
No, it's all self. It's all our
Thank you.
family.
Thank you.
The only people that do come, we have a pair of brothers who help with the making of the cider, that will come in their cars for the pressing and the bottling. They provide the presses for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to make it clear that we're not a committee that's going to deal with property matters. That's not relevant to our considerations, and also planning issues is not something that is relevant to us. We have to deal with the licensing, pure and simple, 4 considerations that we have to take into account. That's what we are going to concentrate on. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I think we have 4 objectors. And we've had the letters. I don't know who wants to bat first if I'm objecting. Yes.
Good morning, I'm Catherine Morgan. I'm told that the Licensing Authority will primarily focus on the direct impact of the activities taking place at the licensed premises on members of the public, living, working, or engaging in normal activity in the area concerned. So I'm speaking today because I live, work, and engage in normal activity in the area concerned. I represent my family, 2 young boys, and 4 other property owners who collectively make up the kilns. It's a Grade 2 listed hop kiln immediately opposite this farm site. And you have 3 of the 5 owners here today. The application says this is simply the sale of alcohol. Not at all. The application, if granted, would create a significant public nuisance. The farm is no longer a viable agricultural business, and the farmyard has, through successive planning applications, been turned into a property rental complex, which brings, I'm sure, far higher levels of income than pumpkins and apples. There being just one small part of the farm courtyard unspoken for. The applicant has, with the family for many years, heavily policed these private bridleways that lead through the farm all around our homes to ensure that the bridleways, which are poorly maintained and are not, that they don't get overloaded or used for any general passing public. And this was of utmost importance to the family up until the recent decision to start commercialising as much of the farm in other ways as possible. Should you visit our rural location, you will see that we are mostly families enjoying quiet use of our little community on the edge of the town. There's no vehicular access for the public beyond the top of Rockhouse Lane. It is of great concern that the application gives a false impression of a thriving and popular farm shop, as we understand farm shops in the area, coffee shops in the area, the Hampton Estate, who run a successful monthly beef farm, as though simply the sale of alcohol was a small addition. The farm shop is this: it's a refrigerated facility, as we understand it, for the farmer to sell a handful of slaughtered lambs. In replies to our question for this application, because we don't understand licensing, we're not experts, and in contrast to the other planning applications of which we must be silent today, the family described the farm sometimes interchangeably as a thriving concern and sometimes a business that can no longer support a retired couple. The process to understand what Romilt, the applicant, and what Kilnside Farm Shop actually are is a case in point. Kilnside Farm Shop, you said at the start of this meeting, is not the applicant. It is not a known business that we can find on Companies House, nor does it pay taxes. It doesn't market. And there are no clear current opening hours for whatever that shop is, but this application is by Romilt. And this is a case in point. We are surprised to hear of an existing business that we are none the wiser about, having lived here between us for over a decade. All we could establish in the past month from Waverley is that food safety were made aware and permitted in 2018 the sale of refrigerated prepackaged lamb. That is all. So let me give you our reality. This community in Rockhouse Lane is 9 separate recognised residential dwellings, of which Kilnside Farm has recently created 2 more old dairy cottages. It is made up of adults, children and animals, and is served only by an unmade road. The roads are privately owned by Suez, and each dwelling has its own clear access permissions. We're all very clear on what those are, and we abide by them. But a facility making and selling alcohol to the public, attracted into this community by the applicant, is a public nuisance. Many of us live and now have to work here day in, day out, post-pandemic. Some of us are already retired and wish to just simply enjoy the peace of their home. We chose homes in a countryside setting with water meadows and footpaths. This is not conducive to a shop selling alcohol to the public, however small. The impact of the proposed licensed activities on those who live and work right here are a nuisance. Simply the sale of alcohol, as it is described, is a significant shift in activity from a sheep farm. It will involve bringing in apples from outside, as one existing customer has told us is likely to happen. It will further create a risk to our families. It will erode the bridleway. And it is aimed at serving the public, many more than those who might use the footpaths today. They will be attracted in to pay and carry away their goods, possibly vehicles. Large amounts of cider are usually heavier than you could walk home with on a long walk. The farm courtyard is referred to as the place for patrons to park. That is entirely untrue. It is a separate matter which many residents have objected to countless times due to the fact that the applicants don't permit their tenants or their guests to park in the courtyard. They spill out onto the fields. It is a breach and subject to a separate matter. But the vehicles do spill out onto the green fields that we like to enjoy. And there is no way the public will find welcome if they drive into Kilnside Farm courtyard and expect to visit that shop. They will be a nuisance in our lane. If it were indeed simply the making and giving away of alcohol from their 20 apple bushes, as we ourselves do with slow gin amongst us every year, there would be no quarrel. There really wouldn't. But to apply for a commercial license clearly demonstrates a scale and an intention which does not and cannot sit alongside those of us who have the right to live in our homes in an unmade lane in a quiet community. And I hope the landowner Suez will also seek to restrict access. We object, we live here and we object.
Thank you. Just so that I can be clear, obviously public nuisance is one of the things we have to consider. Can you tell me, or tell us, how this public nuisance is going to be more than it may be now? You're saying far more people are going to be coming via the cider that come there at the moment?
We don't in the future, but we understand that any scale where you are offering a commercial endeavour, people paying you, this is not giving away a handful of bottles. This is attracting business in. So we can't foresee what that business will look like, when people will come, how many people will come, who will want to buy cider, we don't know. We have to assume, given we've lived here for a long time and we've seen the scale of incremental activity from other activities that we cannot talk about here today, that there will be more, because that is the direction of travel. And we wish to preserve our enjoyment of our homes and children's safety, since children now do not go out into the lane at the front adjacent to the farm because of vehicle movements. Without policing that, traffic studies and the like, it is very difficult to say, but it is not us that need to be cross-examined on that. That is not fair.
No, I'm cross-examining. I'm just trying to understand how you are saying, or you and your fellow residents are saying, that this, if we've granted a license to sell their cider from their farm, how that is going to be a public nuisance. I mean, sometimes it's a public nuisance because people are drinking and making a noise and that sort of stuff, but that's not going to happen because it's off license everything. It's the traffic movement.
If you'd like me to imagine, perhaps on a sunny day, that somebody would come and buy cider and then go and sit and enjoy the public bridleways, as any of us are allowed to do, and lie down in the grass and enjoy looking at the lovely view that they have. They have beautiful water meadows. I can't imagine for you. I used to go down and take a coffee from the mill, the next house along, and enjoy it and look at the beautiful stream. I can't imagine to you. Off-trade, of course, yes, if this was an on-trade application, we would have written as strongly with different arguments, because we don't want to live opposite a pub, but this is off-trade. I can't imagine for you. I could come back probably if there are, I don't know how it works, conditions, and then we go into enforcement. But we are here to try and stop rather than wait and try and, beg an enforcement team, as we are on other matters. It's the direction of travel here.
Public nuisance is the extra footfall.
I don't know, I'm not party to the volumes, I understand.
No, but you're telling me this is going to be a public nuisance, and I'm wanting for you to tell me what you define as public nuisance that you envisage could happen if we should grant the license. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Regular and constant visitors. I imagine today, if there are approximately 20 lambs a year, I don't know, but a handful, that is a start finish. I don't know, because I don't have experience of cider making, how many litres but I understand that there will be apples brought in. I can't compute how 20 small bushes will produce a business. So there is a business being applied for here. I imagine there'll be vehicular movements. I imagine there'll be customers coming by car. You know, we have some sunny days, but some people, if they want the cider, they'll come in the rain in a car. It is the likely
The applicant
activity.
was saying, if I've got it right, that they're using their own apples, and 420 litres is roughly what their apples produce. That's what they produced last year. This is what they're going to produce this year. I mean, clearly, it could be a planning matter if they were going to become a cider producer from producing stuff from outside, maybe. And it may be we can put a condition, I have to take advice from our legal department, as selling cider that's totally produced on and using materials from the farm, for example.
I was very concerned when I was trying to research, without wanting to object, just to try and clarify with the licensing team, that the analogy was it could be that the applicant would go to Booker, fill up with Smirnoff, and come and run an off license. There aren't distinctions in this. It's a yes or no. So we are trying firmly to object, to stop. If there were shades of grey, we could perhaps negotiate, but it doesn't seem that way. So when you're trying to navigate a licensing process, we don't fully understand.
Okay, I understand. And that's the reason for the hearing today, is to find out exactly what is going to be proposed and what's going to happen, and then the licensing committee can decide, or panel can decide to grant or not to grant, and if to grant, to put on conditions, potentially, if we decide to grant. So, have either of any questions of this lady?
No, I asked
Okay, fine.
about residence and distance.
Right, okay. Right, do you want to speak?
Catherine's
Done it on.
been through. Yeah.
Yes.
Again, Catherine said.
What do you want it to say as it would?
I had a couple of thoughts.
Yes,
if
do.
that's
Yeah,
possible.
say what you want to say.
Myself and my partner have only been in the kilns for a short period of time, 4 months. Since we've been there, the farm shop, as it is, has never had produce available to be sold. It's sold out, maybe because the lambs haven't been slaughtered or whatever. The other point I'd like to make is that it was mentioned that the nearest neighbours opposite the farm were valued customers.
Yeah.
Well, they only moved in a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And there's nothing been available for sale at the farm shop. So I can't understand that comment.
Okay. All right.
The final thing is that I'd like to ask how long they've actually been producing the cider.
Yeah.
And is it now they're producing it in such an amount that they want to sell it, or have they actually sold it before?
Well, they can make final submissions, and I'm sure they'll cover that when they deal with their final submissions. So we can answer that. Yes,
no, I mean, it's just to reiterate the point of that Catherine made about the very small orchard.
Yeah.
That they get the apples from.
Anybody got any questions? Councillor Merriweather, on behalf of the Town Council.
On behalf of the Town Council, thank you, Chair. All right, so final Town Council objects to the application for a new premises licence at Kilnside Farm. This is an inappropriate location for vehicular access with the potential to cause public nuisance with vehicles parking on or blocking the popular walking and cycling routes, and the intensification of the use of the bridleways also has the potential to impact public safety. Farnham Town Council raises further concerns on behalf of Suez, the owner of the private roads, Moore Park Lane and Rockhouse Lane. There are 4.
Chair, please may I interject and say that you can't represent a third party who's had ample opportunity to make a representation themselves.
Yeah, well, anything to do with property matters, like upkeep of the right of way and the use of the right of way is actually probably not relevant to licensing.
But the reason that Suez didn't make a representation was because they weren't notified and they had reserved their rights.
If I might
Chair.
interject,
Can I ask our legal officer to just
There
advise
are
us, please?
specific rules in relation to licensing in terms of advertising, which is in the form of a local newspaper and a sign at the address. It's different to plan where notifications are sent to interested parties and adjacent properties. So I'd ask you to refrain from commenting on their behalf.
Okay, so are you asking me not to make a statement on their behalf?
They would have been able to make objections. There isn't any discretion in terms of when objections can be received by other parties. It's a firm line in terms of the date for representations, which I believe, I can check the papers, it's the 16th of September. And unless we hear from Suez, I believe that's the name of the company, we are unable to accept representations by them. We have no discretion, I'm afraid.
Well, these are representations being made by Farnham Town Council on their behalf, so they're Farnham Town Council's.
I understand that Farnham is
representation.
making its own inquiries and has made inquiries with the company concerned. But I would ask you to limit your comments to those of public safety and nuisance as set out in the original representations made.
I'm not a lawyer, so you will have to edit me as I go along, probably then.
That may be a matter for the members and perhaps the chair will.
If you stray
assist.
onto
I'm sure you
property
will.
matters,
I'm sure you will.
we'll either call you up or we'll ignore what you say, but what we are concerned about in licensing are the 4 licensing considerations. And if they don't relate to those, they will not be relevant and will be ignored.
I understand that.
The lady here dealt with it on public nuisance, which is one of the things. So public nuisance fine, and to remind you what the other ones are.
Oh, I've got them in front of me.
Prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, nuisance and protection of children and harm.
Yeah, and the devil's sometimes in the detail, because disorder, I'm sure, isn't as serious as club crime, but it's still something that. All right.
I don't believe that representations have been made on the basis of crime and disorder and protection of children from harm.
No, none at
Individual
all.
representations,
No,
so you're entitled to elaborate on the 2 that you have mentioned. I hope that clarifies matters.
Yes. Okay, well, look, just stop me if you think I'm straying. Okay. So firstly, access. Suez's position is that the applicant, Ronald.
Sorry, please.
Hang on a minute, we cannot deal with property matters. The access, whether there's a legal right of way or not a legal right of way, or who upkeeps the road, is not a matter for licensing, as I understand it.
Okay,
You
so-
are here speaking on behalf of Farnham Town Council, not on behalf of the owner of the right of way.
Okay. All right, number 2, prevention of nuisance.
Good
Okay.
stuff. Yeah, good
All
stuff.
Should a license be granted by the licensing committee, and given Suez's statement on the premises not having a right of access, it should not then fall to local residents to police the activities and access of customers to the premises. Indeed, such measures lead to friction within local communities and the exact opposite of sustainable rural communities that Waverley Borough and Farnham Town Councils are seeking to enhance. Suez do not have an appropriate operational presence in the local area to police access and use of Suez private roads. Furthermore, licensing conditions other than hours of opening do not have the appropriate reach or scope to prevent nuisance occurring from a licensed premises in such remote hamlet communities. If licensed conditions had the scope and breadth of planning conditions, then sewers would be comfortable in the ability of those conditions to limit the potential for amenity and nuisance impact. However, licensing conditions do not have any near such breadth of scope. Furthermore, the size of the farm is insufficient to sustain any credible level of site production. Therefore, sewers are concerned that in gaining an alcohol sales license, that activities will then be uncontrolled, leading to upscaling of production and the importation by HGV of apples or importation of alcohol from off-site for sale on-site, leading to nuisance to the local community and damage to the bridleways, albeit by unauthorized use and unauthorized access. All right, the third point is on use and existing use. Is that in scope?
Isn't that planning?
You see, I'll let you decide whether this is planning or not, if that's okay, because I'm not qualified.
I mean, we've got to, the town council have written a letter, and I'm assuming that you are going to be speaking, elaborating on what's in that letter, rather than raising lots of new issues.
Well, there are only new issues because Suez wasn't able to write her own representation.
Because they were out of time.
I'm afraid there is no discretion, and it's very strict licensing law in terms of the date for representations to be received and you're legally entitled.
Well,
to
I think, in fact, I
raise.
think Catherine's already covered the point because it's used, because it does refer to a question over the use of the existence of the farm shop. It's self-described. The fourth point is on planning permission, so I will not make it here. Lastly, I'd just like to draw your attention to. I'd like to draw your attention to.
I can't hear properly. Could you speak up?
Of course. I'd like to draw your attention just to one inconsistency, which was made in a statement today, which is that the applicants are seeking to rely on passing train when the application is for the on-demand collection of pre-orders, which does not seem to be the same thing. Thank you.
Okay, any questions of?
No, none from me.
Okay. Fine.
Question.
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously in terms of public nuisance, is it public sorry. Public nuisance and safety? Is that what your concerns are? Am I? Public safety and prevention of nuisance.
Yes.
Those are the two connect. What is the nuisance? Could you define what the nuisance is that you're concerned about?
Yes, the use of the area for off sales and the nuisance to the neighbourhood and to everybody else who wants to use it, to use the bridleways for walking and cycling, particularly being caused a nuisance by more traffic coming down a bridleway as far as sewers are concerned, in unauthorised traffic using the bridleway to come and collect the orders that they are somehow ordering online for alcohol, and the delivery of either raw materials or finished product by unauthorised traffic to the farm for production and on sale.
Thank you.
Well, thanks very much. Before we retire, I will see if the applicants wish to give a summary or cover any points that have been raised. Sorry, speak up, Mr. Milton. I'm going to ask the applicant to sum up anything that he wants to make clear to us. I think all the objectives have summarised their position as to where they are. So a right of reply, in effect, just to cover anything that has been raised by the applicant that you would like the panel to be aware of.
Yes, to sort of answer some of the concerns that have been raised. As far as children within the area, as I've said, there are 3 other families with children in the local vicinity of our as they call it, a hamlet. In the area, there are 3 other families, and they've made no representation and they have children themselves. I have mentioned in the application, obviously, with children being present and to fit with current licensing, we will be running a Challenge 25 policy for identification for people collecting or buying alcohol from our premises. As far as the off-site sales go, if someone was to walk down the lane doing that, that's not in our it's not in our control. We're bordered by two local pubs as well, and down each side of the farm there's 2 local pubs, Princess Royal and Shepton Flock. So it's highly unlikely they're going to come to us instead of going to a pub that they've already passed. As far as the comments about nuisance, on which seem to mainly rely on traffic, we do have rights. I set out in our deeds. Suez has never made an objection on that. I don't want to venture into the planning and the access rules, but we have rights for all traffic, and there is currently traffic. It's a commercial farm and has been for over 100 years. So when people move into the area expecting peaceful countryside and water meadows, there are water meadows. They're grazed by our animals. It's a working farm. It's been a dairy farm before us. It was heavy horses, but after that, and then on to us. The amount of lamb or beef we produce, I feel, is irrelevant to this application. And to say that we haven't had stock for our new neighbours opposite to buy, we have had. They have purchased some steaks off us. They have made further orders because our seasonal produce, as it is, lambs can only go at certain times of the year when they're ready. Beef can only go at certain times of the year in regards to TB testing, etc. Again, but this is all irrelevant to this licensing application, but it will give you an idea of the farm. To meet the comment about the on-demand in our application, I feel we covered this right at the beginning, in that it is when people want it, not as a come and browse. And to mention that we highly police the area, it's all it is with enforce about our private covenant, which is dealing with our roads, but that's again not within this remit. We have only ever seek to withhold our piece down our end of the lane, so there's no unnecessary further unlawful traffic. But we do have farm traffic, as I've said multiple times, which is lawful and unaffected. They mentioned the business and raw milk being the applicator. Raw milk is the company owner of the farm, but the farm is called Kilnside Farm and can be called Kilnside Farm Shop, I believe. There's no law on that. We've been trading licensed by Environmental Health for over 5 years for the meat, and we have been in contact and in conversation with Alison Odell of the Environmental Health team about the production of the cider. She has had all relevant paperwork and communication from us, has never objected or made any representations. We invited her down for viewing. We have made the cider previously, they say it was suddenly increased. We've made cider for about 4 years now. Never sold it. We've drank it ourselves. We're allowed to, family and friends, we're allowed to gift it legally. And that's what we've done. And with a lot of people going, this is really good. You should think about selling this. We have the quantity we have. And all we are applying to do is sell this. We have no dreams to go down to Booker's and buy crates of alcohol or get them delivered by lorries. That's not what we're looking to do. It's all in-house.
Just to clarify, that was the one question. The other part was just if you could clarify for the panel. It's being suggested that you might be bringing in apples from elsewhere to increase your cider production. Is that planned?
Yeah. There's no reason why our friends can't gift us our apples. We're not buying in apples as such.
Okay, so apples might.
There's no
come
view
in
to
from
get
elsewhere.
there's no view to get Arctic loads of apples in. We don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the want, the manpower, or anything to produce at that scale.
Okay, just
It's
what you're saying.
we
is
have taken
you're not going to
apples
bring
from
in
friends.
alcohol. You're not going to bring in other alcohol from elsewhere to sell. So
No.
you're only going to be selling cider.
Yeah.
And there may be apples that may come from third parties that come to you.
For instance, this year, I can cover that. For instance, this year, we had a reduced crop because of a late frost, and a good friend of ours across the valley said, I've got a couple of trees. You can come and take all my windfalls. I drove out, picked up 3 crates, brought them back.
Right. Okay, well, I think that deals with the evidence that you've heard. So we will now retire to some appropriate
I'm going to committee room
2, and we'll come back. We will ask our committee clerk to be with us and our legal advisor.
You're going to committee room 2. Gillian and the committee.
Outside, up there for the toilets.
Jenny's watching.
That went through.
I want to make it clear that this panel is here as a licensing panel only. And we're not here to consider matters of planning or property issues, access issues, and so on. We've had 4 objections to the application for a license. And we note that none of the responsible authorities have lodged any objections. We have carefully considered all the objections and the evidence before us. We've considered the Licensing Act 2003 and also the Waverley licensing policy. And it would appear that the objections are all on nuisance and or public safety. The panel have decided to grant the license limited to 10 till 6, 7 days a week maximum, making it clear that anybody coming by appointment will be within those hours. But if it turns out, I just want to point out, that if it turns out that the concerns of the objectors has resulted in a serious public nuisance, then neighbours or objectors can call for a license review. And our licensing officer here can explain how that works after you've disappeared, either individually or, as I say, after we've retired. But on the evidence we have at the moment, we feel that it is right to grant the license, and that's what we will do. You will hear from the office within a week
Maximum, no.
maximum of the decision in detail. I'm just giving edited highlights. Okay, well, thank you very much indeed, and I think that completes the agenda